Hi, Jamie. Welcome to our channel, um, Voices on the Path to Soul Freedom. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Pamela. Thank you so much for offering this opportunity. My name is Jamie Rambo. Uh, I am a mother of two children. Their dad and I are very good friends, but we parted ways. And I moved to Montana when the kids were grown. I moved back to my home state, and he's and my daughter is currently finishing college. My son was in the military. He was a true blue warrior. He passed a couple years back.
Mhm.
uh, and uh, and he passed being a warrior. So I would say when I introduce myself, I'm a mom. I'm a Chila of God of El Moria, if you'll take me. I am on this path of the Great White Brotherhood, and it's wonderful to have a conduit to talk about it because most of my career I've been in public service. I was a flight attendant for many years, ran an airline station. I've lived in a lot of different states, and I've had a very full, rich life. I continue to, and I suppose that when we introduce ourselves at this age, it's interesting. So the big picture is that I'm here. I'm continue to learn. I'm growing every day. Um, and this is fun. I'm so grateful that you're doing this for everyone, because we never know which personality is going to draw who. And I think the most important part of all of these processes is to be authentic. And anyway, whatever that means, right? So, yeah, just I'm here. I'm back home in my home state. I'm so thrilled to be back, and hoping to continue to be that chalice for whatever God needs me for. So yeah, thanks so much for doing this. Yeah, I
Oh,
really
sure.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. And could you tell us how you found the path? And you mentioned some words. I'm sure the public doesn't know what they mean, but I guess we'll get to
Oh,
that.
yeah. I mean, increase. I don't know if I can increase the volume. Just a second, because I can't hear you as well. You can probably hear me, but I can't hear you. Sorry about that, everybody. But maybe you can edit this. There we go. Okay, now I'll be able to hear you a little better. Um, so how I found the path uh, is that when I was really young, I already had some really funky experiences that had to do with um, that no one else could understand, and it started at 6 years old, where I would almost growing up here in Montana as a little girl, I would have these mystical experiences with nature, and they weren't a big deal to a lot of people. Some people have a real, but I certainly did. I actually saw a lifetime when I was looking up in the clouds. I literally the room waved it out, and in came this vision of a lifetime that I had had as a little girl, and then later on in life, while I was going to in high school, and boy crazy, and trying to get good grades and trying to stay off of drugs, and but listening to lots of rock and roll and doing all the things that teenagers do, being normal. One of the things that was a little bit interesting about me was that when I look back, is all these love songs that were being played and all this intense music. Whenever it was referred to, I like one of my favorite stories to tell young people is, the song "I Can't Live If Living Is Without You." All my girlfriends, everybody around me was talking about the boys. I was literally thinking about God, and I would say, "I can't live if living it without you is without God." And of course, I wouldn't talk about it because I was cool and popular, and so I needed to continue that route,
Mhm.
and like teenagers do. And so what happened? The first part of my path, my mother, who also joined me on the path, and she got to meet Elizabeth a few times, uh, but my mom was good friends with a psychic down in Texas. That's where we went. That's where I moved. When I was a young teenager from Montana, we moved to Texas. My dad flew for the Border Patrol down there. Anyway, my mom had this psychic friend, And the psychic told me some interesting things. And she was a full-blown psychic, all the way. And yet she was a minister and all this. So she had light. I mean, she was, there was something very sweet about her. But my mom was having a session with her, and the psychic said to my mom, "Oh, there is a beautiful being standing behind you, a feminine being, and she's telling me her name is Nada." Well, many years later, my mom's first live experience with Elizabeth Clare Prophet at a conference was a what's called a dictation of Lady Master Nada. And my mom thought that was very profound, and so did I. But the way that I came across the masters was I was now maybe 18, 17, 18. I had left Texas, moved to Seattle. And one of the things this psychic told me is that you will have a guide. There will be a guide. You have a guide. And that guide will tell you, will show themselves to you whatever way they choose to. So I always thought about that. Who's my guide? Who's my guide? But I would ask God. I wouldn't ask other psychics. I just went vertical, and I would say, well, who's my guide? Because those are the words that were used. And so one day in Bellingham, Washington, about a week before my mom showed up to visit from Texas, I was going to school in Bellingham and playing and getting in trouble and stuff. I had a dream, and in this dream, I was in an oasis in the middle of a desert. And it was a beautiful oasis, and in the middle of this oasis was this being, this man, and I was listening to him with a group of souls, and it was an vivid dream. And I learned later on in life that was probably real because of some of the things we learn about the retreats of the Great White Brotherhood and all that. Well, with that said, I woke up, leaped out of my bed, and I said, oh my gosh, you're my guide. I met my guide in my dream, and I was very excited. And I said it out loud. Thankfully, I had my own little room because I was living in a house with other roommates that were going to school and what have you. And so I said, oh my gosh, well, what's your name? What's your name? And it was very dramatic. And I went, well, I believe in God and I believe in my freedom. So I'm going to call you Godfrey. And so that was the first introduction to Godfrey. Well, I just decided to call my guide Godfrey. Well, then what happened is my mom shows up, and my brother was in the military, and he found a book called The Law of Life in the trash can, and he had it handed it to my mom. He said, you like this funky stuff, Mom. So my mom happened to bring it with her to Bellingham on the airplane, and we were in my girlfriend's king size bed. We were gonna, we were heading to bed. We were gonna have a sleepover together, my mom and I. And she pulls out this book, and she says, "It's Law of Life." It's a yellow book. Elizabeth referred to it in many of her lectures. The first and second book of this. I didn't know this, of course. I didn't know who she was. Anyway, back to the story. Uh, my mom hands me the book. I open it. I just look at it. I open it, and a bolt of lightning, literally like a bolt of energy, just goes through my hands as my mom's handing me the book, and I open it. So she also felt this current of light, and I opened it on the top right hand side, closer to the middle. It said Godfrey Ray King, and I started crying, and I said, "Mom, I had a dream." I told her about it. Why didn't you tell me about this? And she goes, well, I just didn't, you didn't ask. That's how my mom was. If you didn't ask, she didn't tell. And so that was the beginning of me reading the Law of Life book, learning about Godfrey Ray King, learning about the Brotherhood. You asked, Pamela. Sorry, it's not a short story. It's kind of a fun story,
Fun.
actually. Sorry. I don't mean to go on and on, but it's so interesting how we get to where we're going when we're living the life that everybody lives, and how mountains, clouds, waterways are parted so that we can, whatever airways are parted, and that God will reach us any way God chooses. So anyway, that was the beginning of my whole story with the masters. And I studied this book, and I thought I was the only one on the planet that believed this way. And I decided to go commercial fishing in Alaska. This is where I met, this is where I learned about Elizabeth Clare Prophet. I had already known about the I Am movement. I wasn't interested in being a part of it. I thought it was already gone. I mean, we didn't have internet back then. So I'm up commercial fishing. I also process fish, but I was up in a town in Chignik, Alaska. So it's part of the Aleutian Islands. And I was having one of the great adventures in my life. And I was, at this time, I was not fishing. I was working on a processing boat, and I was leaning up against this big pile of netting. And I was mending a net because that's how I made extra money on the side. Some fishermen showed me how to do it. So I'm mending a net. And there's this big Labrador next to me that loved me, and I loved her. And I'm on the dock. And this man walks, and I'm reading. I was tired. So I pick up my book by Shirley MacLaine called Out on a Limb. And I'm reading the book and a little bit annoyed with the story, a little bit annoyed with Shirley MacLaine. And up walks this guy with this ruddy face. He was about 5'6", stocky body. And he walks right past me. He pauses, he backs up, and he says, "How do you like that book?" And I look up at him, and I was very private about how what I believed. And he goes, "How do you like that book?" And I look at him and I go, "Well, this is by Shirley MacLaine." He goes, "Yeah, I've seen it around." And I go, "Well, it's okay, but it's psychic. She's depending on UFOs to take her back home." And he goes, "What do you believe?" He goes, "Oh, that's interesting." He goes, "What's your name?" And I go, "Jamie." And he says, "Oh, my name's Mark." And he says, "What is it that you believe?" And I go, "I believe in the teachings. I believe in the Ascended Masters." That's all I said. I just said, and as it came out of my mouth, I wanted to close my mouth. I thought, why did I say that? That's so off. And he goes, "Well, so do I." And that was the beginning of our friendship. So as time went on, while I was doing my thing, he was commercial fishing. He was truly a commercial fisherman. He took me, we became friends, believe it or not, on a little island and fishing. I don't know how it happened. I don't remember all the details, but Mark took me up to this creek where there were grizzly bear paws. But we went up to this like they were walking around. We went up to this creek, and he taught me how to give the violet flame decrees. And he started out, he goes, "You need to learn these decrees." And I wanted to tell you about Elizabeth Clare Prophet. It's called the Church Universal, and it's down in Calabasas, down in California, and blah, blah, blah. Well, uh, as he starts sharing these decrees with me, I took over. I literally took over. He goes, "I am a being of violet fire." And I just went, I'm an Aries. And I just went, "I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires." And he just kind of looks at me and says, "Who are you? Like, did you know about this?" And it was just past life memory, probably hanging out with the I am movement. And
Mm,
so that was beginning of my journey. He told me about the path. He told me about mother. At this point, I'm going to call her mother because
mhm,
she was no longer, he called her mother. I called her mother. I said, "Oh, she sounds wonderful." Well, in Alaska, I went, I ended up meeting a young woman who became close to mother at one point. She was she is an amazing soul. But she's not interviewing, so I won't give her name out. But she was up there with me because she also had that adventurous streak.
mhm.
Ironically, she lived in California, just south of where Camelot was. That's just another part of the story. But we met after I met Mark. I had the Law of Life book. Now I knew about the Church Universal down south. And she shows up, asks me about the book. We end up connecting, the two of us. She ends up, summer's over, we catch all the fish, we have our experiences. She heads back south, and she calls me up and says, I told her I'm going to go down and check out. Well, I had a boyfriend at the time, but I broke up. I just, everything was about, I wanted to find this church. I wanted to find people that believed with me, believed like me, and I wanted to find Mark. And I wanted to make sure I promised Mark I would go. I wanted to fulfill that promise. So I get this girlfriend of mine to meet me down south, in a real cool cosmic Archangel Michael preventing me from getting killed on a boat. It was all this drama. It was like all of hell was trying to prevent me from finding my path. Not that I wasn't on a path, but finding my people and finding my teacher, the teacher that I wanted to have in this life. Not saying she was everybody's teacher. She was my teacher for that moment in time and space. And so I went down there through all, I even went to the I am church, and they were kind of saying things, and nothing got in the way. It was profound. It was like Godfrey just was right beside me, my higher self. Archangel Michael I had learned about, so I was praying to him. And yeah, it was so profound. And when I showed up, I went to SU, had a really cool experience there. And then, and all sorts of things happened, connections with mother, connections with people. And I was a wild woman. I was a wild girl. And I never, Elizabeth never asked me to leave that. She never ever told me to be, she always, I felt like I was encouraged to be authentic. And felt always very, so it was a great path for me. And it was a real fun way to find it, only because that was my soul needed that experience. And so that's how I found out about her, through a fisherman named Mark Thomas. And love the guy. I would love to see where he is these days. But anyway, that's my story. Part of it. That's part of it.
And I just want, I'd like to get some definitions of some things that people might
Sure,
not understand. Yeah.
of course.
You mentioned Great White Brotherhood. What is that?
Well, for me, what it is now, of course, is that I've studied so much of it over the years. White does not refer to race at all. When any of us takes a flashlight and shines it on something, the closest color to that light is white. So really, it's the great light brotherhood. It's the brother and sisterhood of light.
Mhm.
And where there's light, there are no shadows. And so then that's where we get our aha moments. That's where we get our inspiration. And the brotherhood or sisterhood, because it's both, it's the godhood, it's all these souls throughout. If we're going to talk about planet Earth, they're they're just our brothers and sisters. They're our fathers and mothers, in some cases, our sisters and brothers, and whatever. They all have had incredible full lives. They are people who are God's children, who who made a lot of good choices throughout their lifetimes, if we're so inclined to believe that we reincarnate. And they made a lot of choices that were good choices. They made a lot of bad choices, but somehow, because God and heaven is so gracious, we don't have to be perfect in this body. We just need to try. And I think, yeah, the brotherhood. So Jesus is part of the brotherhood, and he was, he managed all the past 2,000 years. He was the lead. He was the boss, or the he was the CEO, as Christians. I love that. Jesus, chief executive officer. And he's kind of stepping down and we're moving into another age, the Aquarian age, which is a name used with normal everyday scientists and what have you. They know that something's shifting. And so then Jesus, Jesus also had his lifetimes, so he did. He also had lifetimes, so he's part of the brotherhood. And there's other people that are part of the brotherhood, or who are good friends of Jesus, and they made a lot of good choices. And so he's kind of passing the torch. And so the Great White Brotherhood is a continuous, every day, every moment, every second. It's going on now. It was going on then. It's just always been around. And so that's the brotherhood. To me, is just is normal and ongoing. It's just a heavenly corporation, just like we have an earthly corporation in different countries and counties and states. There's all this different hierarchy on earth. That's what's happening in heaven, and it's all part of that light, souls of light, who are serving God and love God. And so I would say that's the great light brotherhood. I kind of like that better sometimes, but I understand what they're saying. It just sets people off a little bit, when I use the great white brotherhood kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Oh, I really like how you phrase it. That makes all the sense in the world. So we mentioned ascended masters, so that's who you're referring to are part of this great white brotherhood.
Right. And they don't stop ascending. It's not like, you know, we have this idea that it stopped, the buck stops there or the buck stops here. And the neat thing about God or heaven or cosmos or whatever people or higher self or whatever, the thing about all this is that it's continuously growing. And uh, so it's never stagnant. And so I would say that the ascended masters are constantly, they're never stagnant. And they are, they have mastered this dimension, Earth, this matter, by making better choices than not. And then they don't have to come back unless they decide that that's something they want to do and it's okay with heaven, then they do come back because we have had Jesus is one of them. He came back. He said, he collaborated with heaven, and heaven said, we have a job for you. What say you? And he came back. And I think that he's not the only one that gets to do that. I think the ascended masters have ascended. They've mastered enough to not have to come back to this dimension, and yet many of them choose to. So that's another beautiful thing about ascended masters is that they don't just take off and leave us. However, and there's new people making it back home to heaven and staying there. Hopefully every year there's one person, somewhere on this planet that does that, or maybe more, many more, who knows. So yeah, ascended masters are very close and normal. They're not some mystical, mythical creature or being. They're very practical, and they're our friends. They're truly our friends. They have normal conversations with us. We just need to tap into that idea, you know.
So what would you say is the goal of life? And how do people reach that?
Well, I believe that the goal of life, uh, the way we reach our goals in life is that there are laws of life. Like I mentioned that book, The Law of Life. And I believe that the goal of life on this planet is multifaceted. It's individualized, and it's not, it's not simple in the sense that, uh, I don't need to get into that and be preachy about it, but the goal of life for me would be to, as I age, so I'm 62 now, I would say when I was younger, I would say the goal of my life is to serve until, just keep serving and try to be nice about it and try to continue liking people and try to support institutions that I care about and blah, all that wonderful stuff that we do. As I age and people around me are aging, people are, uh, they're older, people are heading back home to heaven. It's just what happens as we age. We're getting closer to not being in this body. I would say at this age, the life is to really do our best to be balanced. I think what's so important is to really truly be brave and pursue our psychology. Read the books that will help us heal our wounds, so that we don't get in the way of our service, so that our isms and schisms and self doubts and all these things that we tend to bring with us, we just keep working on that beside the prayers, giving or the intention of eating well so that our brain works well, so that our body works well. Pay attention to what's going on. More and more is being revealed about health and livelihood. Try and stay in the middle, balanced. when it comes to politics, when it comes to whoever's running what when. Try not to let any of that pay attention to it, but try the life is so precious and so important that yes, pay attention to what's going on. Do not allow it to take us off our path, which means getting too focused on what's going on and here, there, and everywhere. Say a prayer, give a prayer, whatever path we're on. You just ask God to help, and then maybe learn about the violet flame because that's a pretty cool concept, and it seems to be exploding on this planet, and people are more and more having violet light show up. When I was a flight attendant, and I just retired a couple of years ago, I would be in the back and visualizing the violet flame surrounding all the passengers. And I had passengers come up to me and say, "Why are you violet? Why are you purple?" And these were clairvoyant people who could see. And so I know it works. And so I believe that the thing about life is to really do our best to keep open-minded and question everything and also try things out. Give it a try. It won't hurt us. It's not going to kill anybody if they say, I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. What a beautiful, sweet mantra or invocation or decree or prayer, you know? Uh, so yeah, I feel this next couple thousand years is going to be interesting. And so, uh, do I think I'm going to make my ascension? I don't know. Do I want to? Sure. Do I care about people? Well, I studied one of the saints called Kuan Yin. She's a Chinese saint. She's the equivalent of Mother Mary for the Catholics. And she took the vow, so they say, in heaven to be the Bodhisattva. And I like that idea. I just don't want to keep getting pulled into all the stuff that gets me in trouble, you know, naughty things that everybody does, you know, that just not everybody does, but you know, whatever it is that we think is naughty or imbalanced, right? So yeah, I would say the buck doesn't stop here. Keep on keeping on, and that's what life is all about: is doing what we need to do to stay balanced. Whatever that is. If it's mainstream medicine, temporarily use it and focus on the alternative. Just focus on, you know, all the plants and animals that they talk about in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bible and all these different texts, the Quran, you know, they all mention vegetables and fruit. So yeah, I think that's the it's all about balance. That is, for me, is my goal, to stay balanced or to get balanced if I'm not.
Okay. And so by getting more balanced, you're feeling, you mentioned the ascension that you're feeling, which is ascending, going, like descended masters going back up to heaven, uh, making it back up to heaven. Is that what
Yeah,
you're,
yeah, I mean, it's not that simple, but because their lives were no more simpler than mine is. And I guarantee you, if I can speak on behalf of the masters, it's not simple. And I think if I was to download anything from any of them, they would say, it's not simple. So I don't think it's simple. You know, they give us tools. And I do believe, you know, again, we work together as a team. I don't believe that, you know, I'm some kind of robot. I believe that I get to coexist and as the, you know, that's kind of an interesting idea, but that's more of a that whole idea is interesting. So I don't want to use that word, that phrase, because it's a little bit interesting. But I think the best phrase is that we're co-creators and with the masters, because the masters, with my brothers and sisters, I'm a co-creator with them. And so, yes, they did ascend back. It wasn't easy, and not all of them are 100% perfect up there on the other side. They still have stuff that they have to work out, even though they get to stay in heaven. So I've learned. So this is what different groups have explained, and it makes sense to me. Why wouldn't it? You know, I don't think it's easy, but I do believe we have all the support we need, and God never gives us anything that we can't handle. We just have to remember that. We just have to remember that we're very profoundly loved by God, that Alpha and Omega is another name for God. We're very loved by God, profoundly loved. And that's what makes it, that's what adds the grace, the ease, and then we get this violet flame. We have very good psychologists that are on this planet. There's strange ones that aren't helping people, but there's really good ones. There's good books out there. Christians have some really great ideas, and Muslims have some great ideas, and ascended master Chile, ascended mastered people who students have some great ideas, and yeah, I think where ascension is going back to heaven and staying there. You know, I don't know if it's that black and white, but I do love the journey.
Sure.
Yeah, if that makes
It,
sense. I don't.
oh yeah, that was very good. Thank you. Is there
Okay, you're
anything
welcome.
else that you would like people to know?
Uh, is there anything else I would like people to know? Uh, well, I'm going to make a pitch for the teachings. Um, a lot of people are a little bit disgruntled with churches and what have you because of things that have happened. And what I hope people will do is try and have that spirit that I had when I was a kid, is that stay one pointed, stay open minded, and yet do not allow personalities, human personalities or characters. Don't let that interfere with what was downloaded and taught through my favorite messengers in this life, Elizabeth Clare Prophet and Mark Prophet. Whatever, I just recommend so highly that people pick up a book that was written by either one of them, and just don't let don't let anybody get in the way, and just stay focused on what you're reading and see if it resonates. I think there's some of the greatest, most profound and practical and relatable and fun adventurous stories and revelations that will really, really help no matter what path anybody is on, no matter what they're on. This information will kickstart whatever it is that a person is trying to achieve in life. Whatever, whether it's financial or health or all of that, whether it's emotional, spiritual, all those things. This is the best teaching. I mean, I refer back to it. I'll go and study all this stuff. I'm very open. I like to not, I mean, I have a lot of discernment, I think. I had enough discernment to know that Elizabeth Clare Prophet was somebody that was inspired me to be better. And I love the fact that she was a woman, that she, and she attracted all these really cool people. Some of my greatest friends I met through this path, and they're very balanced people, and they're great, and they're normal and authentic. So yeah, I would say I encourage people to pick up a book or go and listen to one of her lectures on YouTube. Just tune into this person, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, or her husband Mark Prophet. Uh, it's the best stuff ever that we've ever had, I think, on this planet in this at this time. And I guess that's all I want to say. That's about it.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much for coming today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Pamela.